The morning sun cast long shadows across the grounds of St. Andrew's University in Scotland. Kate Middleton walked quickly through the cobblestone pathways, her dark hair catching the autumn breeze. She clutched her art history books tightly against her chest, her mind racing with thoughts about the upcoming semester. This was her second year at the prestigious university, and she had already made a name for herself as a dedicated student with a warm smile that could light up any room. Meanwhile, across campus, Prince William sat in his dormitory room, staring out the window at the same golden sunrise. The weight of his royal duties pressed heavily on his shoulders, even here in this place where he desperately wanted to be treated like any other student. His protection officers maintained a discreet distance, but their presence served as a constant reminder of the life that awaited him beyond these university walls. The two had crossed paths several times during their first year, sharing polite conversations in the dining hall and occasional group study sessions. Kate had always treated William with the same friendly warmth she showed everyone else, never making him feel different or singled out because of his title. This natural approach had caught William's attention more than any grand gesture ever could have. On this particular morning, fate would bring them together in an unexpected way. Kate was hurrying to her morning lecture when she noticed a commotion near the main library. A small crowd had gathered, and she could hear raised voices and the clicking of camera shutters. Her heart sank as she realized what was happening. Photographers had somehow made their way onto campus grounds, breaking the agreement that was supposed to protect students' privacy. As she moved closer, Kate saw William in the center of the chaos, surrounded by reporters shouting questions about his family, his studies, and his future plans. His face showed a mixture of frustration and resignation that Kate had never seen before. The other students stood back, unsure whether to help or simply avoid getting involved in what was clearly a difficult situation. Without hesitation, Kate stepped forward. She didn't think about the consequences or worry about drawing attention to herself. She simply saw someone who needed help, and her instinct was to provide it. Moving through the crowd with quiet determination, she reached William's side and gently took his arm. "Come on," she said softly, her voice calm and reassuring. "Let's get you out of here." William looked at her with surprise and gratitude. Together they walked away from the chaos, Kate leading him toward a quieter part of campus where the photographers couldn't follow. She didn't ask questions or make a big deal about what had happened. Instead, she simply offered him the normalcy he craved by treating the situation as if helping a friend was the most natural thing in the world. They found themselves sitting on a bench in a secluded garden area, surrounded by ancient oak trees that provided both shade and privacy. For several minutes they sat in comfortable silence, watching the leaves dance in the gentle breeze. William felt his tension slowly melting away, replaced by a sense of peace he rarely experienced. "Thank you," he finally said, his voice sincere. "You didn't have to do that." Kate turned to look at him, her brown eyes warm and understanding. "Yes, I did," she replied simply. "That's what friends do for each other." Something shifted between them in that moment. What had been casual acquaintance began to transform into something deeper. William found himself really looking at Kate for the first time, noticing the kindness in her expression, the strength in her posture, and the genuine care she had shown without expecting anything in return. They talked for over an hour, their conversation flowing naturally from topic to topic. William discovered that Kate had a wonderful sense of humor and wasn't intimidated by his position. She shared stories about her family, her hopes for the future, and her love of photography. In return, William found himself opening up about his own dreams and fears in a way he had never done with anyone outside his immediate family. As they prepared to leave for their respective classes, William felt reluctant to end their time together. "Would you like to have coffee sometime?" he asked, hoping his nervousness didn't show. Kate's smile lit up her entire face. "I'd like that very much," she answered. Neither of them could have predicted that this simple moment of kindness would be the beginning of a love story that would capture the attention of the entire world. They were just two young people, drawn together by genuine connection and mutual respect, unaware that their relationship would one day inspire millions and reshape the future of the British monarchy. That evening, Kate called her mother to tell her about her day. She mentioned meeting Prince William properly for the first time, describing him as kind and surprisingly down-to-earth. Her mother listened with interest but had no idea that her daughter had just taken the first step toward becoming part of the most famous family in the world. William, meanwhile, found himself thinking about Kate as he prepared for bed. There was something special about her, something that made him feel like himself rather than just a prince. For the first time in months, he looked forward to tomorrow with genuine excitement, eager to see where this new friendship might lead. 3 weeks had passed since that first coffee date, and William and Kate had become inseparable. Their friendship had blossomed into something beautiful and natural, with neither of them rushing to define what was happening between them. They studied together in quiet corners of the library, took long walks through the Scottish countryside, and spent hours talking about everything from their favorite books to their deepest fears. Kate had quickly learned to navigate the unique challenges that came with being close to someone in William's position. She understood when he needed to cancel plans suddenly due to royal obligations, and she never complained about the security measures that had become part of their daily routine. Most importantly, she continued to treat him as simply William, never letting his title change the easy dynamic they had established. The other students at St. Andrews had begun to notice their growing closeness, but the university's tight-knit community seemed to instinctively protect both of them. There was an unspoken agreement that what happened on campus stayed on campus, allowing William and Kate to experience something close to a normal college romance. One crisp November evening, they were walking back from a study session when William suddenly stopped in the middle of the path. Kate turned to look at him, surprised by his serious expression. The moonlight cast shadows across his face, and she could see that he was struggling with something important. "Kate," he began, his voice unusually formal, "there's something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat, worried that he was about to say something that would change everything between them. She had grown to care for him deeply, and the thought of losing their connection filled her with unexpected sadness. "I think I'm falling in love with you," he said quietly, his words barely audible above the wind rustling through the trees. Kate felt her breath catch in her throat. She had been hoping to hear those words, but now that they were spoken aloud, the weight of their implications hit her with full force. Loving William meant accepting a life that would be scrutinized by millions of people. It meant giving up privacy, freedom, and the simple pleasures of an ordinary existence. But as she looked into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability and hope there, she realized that none of those considerations mattered. Her feelings for him had grown stronger with each passing day, and she couldn't imagine her life without him in it. "I love you too," she whispered, reaching out to take his hand. William's face broke into the most genuine smile Kate had ever seen. He pulled her close, and they shared their first kiss under the starlit Scottish sky. It was a moment of pure magic, untouched by the complications that would inevitably follow. The next few months were the happiest either of them had ever experienced. They created their own little world within the university, finding joy in simple moments that other couples might take for granted. William taught Kate how to play polo during the spring term, laughing as she struggled to stay on her horse while wielding the mallet. Kate introduced William to her love of photography, and they spent countless hours exploring the beautiful Scottish landscape together, capturing memories that would last a lifetime. However, their bubble of happiness couldn't remain intact forever. As their relationship became more serious, the palace began to take notice. William's private secretary started making discreet inquiries about Kate's background, and security protocols were quietly adjusted to account for her regular presence in William's life. Kate's family also felt the change. Her parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, were thrilled that their daughter had found love, but they were also worried about the intense scrutiny that would inevitably come with dating a future king. They watched as Kate began to carry herself differently, becoming more aware of her appearance and behavior, knowing that she was now representing not just herself but potentially the royal family as well. The first real test of their relationship came during the Easter holidays. William was required to attend several official royal engagements, while Kate returned home to Berkshire with her family. The separation was difficult for both of them, but it also provided valuable perspective on how much they meant to each other. During their time apart, William found himself constantly thinking about Kate. Royal events that he had once endured with dutiful resignation now felt empty and meaningless without her presence. He realized that she had become his anchor, the person who kept him grounded and reminded him of who he truly was beneath all the protocol and expectations. Kate, meanwhile, struggled with the reality of what loving William truly meant. She watched news coverage of his official appearances, seeing him in his formal role for the first time since they had been together. The distance between the William she knew and the future king she saw on television was jarring, forcing her to confront the magnitude of the life she might be choosing. When they reunited at St. Andrews, both of them felt the weight of their time apart. They talked openly about their fears and concerns, with William admitting how difficult it had been to fulfill his royal duties while missing her so deeply. Kate shared her own struggles, explaining how she had spent weeks wondering whether she was strong enough to handle the pressures that would come with being part of his world. These honest conversations only strengthened their bond. They realized that their love was worth fighting for, even if the path ahead wouldn't be easy. William made a promise to Kate that night, swearing that he would always protect her and that they would face whatever challenges came their way together. As their second year at university drew to a close, both William and Kate knew that their relationship had reached a turning point. They were no longer just two students who had fallen in love. They were a couple whose future together would affect the monarchy itself. The carefree days of their early romance were behind them, but they faced the future with determination and the unshakable belief that their love could overcome any obstacle. The summer of 2003 marked a turning point in William and Kate's relationship. As they prepared for their final year at St. Andrews, the reality of their future began to weigh heavily on both of them. The palace had made it clear that William's responsibilities would increase significantly after graduation, and the media attention surrounding their relationship had started to intensify despite their efforts to maintain privacy. Kate found herself facing scrutiny unlike anything she had ever experienced. Photographers began following her family, and tabloid newspapers started publishing detailed articles about her background, her family's business, and her previous relationships. The pressure was overwhelming, and there were days when she wondered if she was strong enough to handle the constant attention. One particularly difficult evening, Kate sat in her dormitory room reading yet another invasive article about her personal life. Tears streamed down her face as she realized that her privacy, something she had always taken for granted, was now gone forever. The article contained details about her childhood that even some of her closest friends didn't know. Information that had clearly been gathered through extensive investigation into her past. William found her there an hour later, her face red from crying and newspapers scattered around her feet. His heart broke seeing the woman he loved in such distress, and he felt a surge of anger toward the media outlets that seemed determined to destroy any chance they had at happiness. "I can't do this anymore," Kate whispered, her voice barely audible. "I never signed up for this kind of attention. I just wanted to love you, but they're making it impossible." William knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "Look at me," he said gently. "I know this is overwhelming and I know it's not fair, but I need you to know that you're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together." Kate looked into his eyes, seeing the same pain and frustration reflected there. "But what if it never gets better? What if this is just the beginning?" William was quiet for a long moment, knowing that he couldn't make promises about things beyond his control. "I can't guarantee that the attention will stop," he said honestly, "but I can promise you that I'll do everything in my power to protect you, and I can promise that my love for you will never waver, no matter what they write or what they say." These words provided Kate with the strength she needed to continue, but the pressure continued to mount throughout their final year at university. They made the difficult decision to be more discreet about their relationship, spending less time together in public and being more careful about when and where they were seen as a couple. The separation was painful, but it also taught them both valuable lessons about resilience and commitment. Kate began working with a media advisor recommended by the palace, learning how to handle intrusive questions and developing strategies for maintaining her composure under pressure. She also started attending private sessions with a counselor, who specialized in helping people adapt to life in the public eye. William, meanwhile, threw himself into his studies with renewed intensity, knowing that their time at St. Andrews was limited and wanting to make the most of this protected environment. He also began taking on more royal duties during university breaks, preparing himself for the increased responsibilities that awaited him after graduation. Despite the challenges, There were still moments of pure happiness that reminded them why their relationship was worth fighting for. They found creative ways to spend time together, often meeting in secret locations around campus or taking long drives through the Scottish countryside where they could talk freely without fear of being photographed. One of their most treasured memories from this period was a quiet evening they spent together in William's dormitory room, simply talking about their dreams for the future. Kate had brought homemade cookies from a care package her mother had sent, and they sat on the floor sharing stories about their childhoods and making plans for life after university. "Do you ever wonder what our lives would be like if we were just ordinary people?" Kate asked, curling up beside William on his small sofa. William considered the question seriously. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but then I realized that if I were ordinary, I might never have met you, and I can't imagine my life without you in it." Kate smiled at his words, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I love you for who you are," she said softly. "All of who you are, including the parts that come with complications." As graduation approached, both William and Kate felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation about the future. They had grown tremendously during their time at St. Andrews, both individually and as a couple. They had learned to communicate honestly about their fears and concerns, and they had developed the tools necessary to navigate the unique challenges of their relationship. The university had provided them with a safe haven where they could explore their feelings without constant external pressure. They had been able to experience many of the normal milestones of young love, from their first fight to their first major decision about the future of their relationship. Now, as they prepared to enter the real world, they knew that their relationship would face its greatest test yet. William would be expected to take on more royal duties, while Kate would need to find her own path while supporting him in his role. The media attention would only intensify, and every aspect of their relationship would be scrutinized by millions of people around the world. But they also knew that they had built something strong and lasting during their time at St. Andrews. They had proven to themselves and to each other that their love could survive pressure, separation, and uncertainty. Most importantly, they had developed an unshakable trust in each other that would serve as the foundation for everything that was to come. On their last night at university, they made a pact to always remember what they had learned during their time in Scotland. No matter how complicated their lives became, they would always prioritize their relationship and never let external pressures come between them. They promised to be honest with each other about their struggles and to support each other through whatever challenges lay ahead. The months following graduation proved to be the most challenging period in William and Kate's relationship. As they transitioned from the protected environment of university life to the harsh realities of the real world, the pressures they faced threatened to tear them apart. William was immediately thrust into intensive military training, while Kate struggled to find her place in a world where her every move was watched and analyzed. William's decision to attend the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst meant long periods of separation and limited communication. The rigorous training schedule left little time for phone calls or visits, and Kate often went days without hearing from him. She understood the importance of his military service, but the loneliness was overwhelming at times. Meanwhile, Kate faced her own set of challenges as she tried to establish a career while living under constant media scrutiny. Every job interview became a news story. Every public appearance was photographed and dissected by fashion critics, and every friendship was questioned by reporters looking for insider information about her relationship with William. The pressure reached a breaking point in early 2007 when a particularly invasive photographer began following Kate to work every day. The harassment became so severe that she had to change her daily routine multiple times, and even then, she couldn't escape the constant feeling of being watched. The situation took a serious toll on her mental health, and she began to question whether she could continue living this way. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Kate called William in tears. She had been followed by photographers for 6 hours straight, preventing her from meeting friends for dinner and forcing her to take refuge in a department store until security could help her leave through a back entrance. "I can't live like this," she sobbed into the phone. "I feel like a prisoner in my own life. I can't go anywhere or do anything without being hunted like some kind of criminal." William felt helpless listening to the woman he loved in such distress. His own training was intense and demanding, leaving him emotionally and physically exhausted, and he struggled to find the words to comfort her while being unable to physically be there for support. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "This is all my fault. You didn't ask for any of this." "It's not your fault," Kate replied, trying to regain her composure. "But I need to know that it's going to get better. I need to know that there's a future where we can have some kind of normal life together." This conversation forced both of them to confront the reality that their relationship might not be sustainable under the current circumstances. The constant pressure, combined with their physical separation, was creating an environment where their love was struggling to survive. Over the following weeks, they had several difficult conversations about their future. William was torn between his duty to his country and his desire to protect the woman he loved. Kate was equally conflicted, knowing that walking away would mean losing the love of her life, but staying might mean sacrificing her own well-being and sanity. The media began to sense trouble in their relationship, and speculation about a possible breakup became front-page news. Every time they were seen apart, headlines proclaimed the end of their romance. When they were photographed together, experts analyzed their body language for signs of tension or distance. The breaking point came during a weekend when William had rare leave from Sandhurst. They had planned to spend quiet time together at a friend's country house, but their getaway was discovered by photographers who camped outside the property for the entire weekend. What should have been a peaceful reunion became another ordeal of hiding indoors and sneaking around to avoid cameras. On Sunday evening, as they prepared to part ways again, both William and Kate were exhausted and emotionally drained. They sat in his car in the driveway, neither wanting to say goodbye but both knowing that something had to change. "Maybe we need to take a break," Kate said quietly, the words causing her heart to break even as she spoke them. "Maybe we both need time to figure out if this is really what we want." William's face went pale, but he knew she was right. "Is that what you want?" he asked, hoping desperately that she would say no. Kate was quiet for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. "No," she whispered. "But I don't know what else to do. We're both miserable, and it's not getting better." They held each other in the car for what felt like hours, both knowing that they were about to make one of the most difficult decisions of their lives. When they finally separated, there was an understanding between them that they would step back from their relationship and try to figure out, individually, whether they could find a way to make their love work in the face of such overwhelming challenges. The next few weeks were agonizing for both of them. William threw himself into his military training with even greater intensity, trying to distract himself from the constant ache of missing Kate. He found himself questioning everything about his future, wondering if he was being selfish by asking someone to share a life that came with such enormous sacrifices. Kate, meanwhile, experienced a mixture of relief and devastating sadness. The media attention decreased slightly when news of their break became public, giving her some breathing room for the first time in months. But the absence of William from her life left a void that nothing could fill. She spent long hours talking with her family about her feelings and her options. Her parents, who had watched their daughter struggle with the pressures of royal life, were supportive of whatever decision she made. They reminded her that she was young and talented, with many opportunities ahead of her. But they also acknowledged the deep love she felt for William. Despite their separation, both William and Kate found themselves thinking constantly about their relationship and what they had lost. They realized that their love was strong enough to survive the external pressures they faced, but they needed to find better ways to protect and nurture it. The break, painful as it was, gave them the clarity they needed to understand what truly mattered to them. The separation lasted 3 long months, during which both William and Kate struggled to imagine their lives without each other. Despite their best efforts to move forward independently, they found themselves constantly reminded of what they had shared and what they had lost. Friends and family on both sides watched with concern as two people, who were clearly meant to be together, suffered through what felt like an unnecessary punishment for falling in love. William completed his training at Sandhurst and was commissioned as an officer in the Blues and Royals Regiment. The ceremony should have been one of the proudest moments of his young life, but as he stood at attention in his formal uniform, all he could think about was how much he wished Kate was there to share the moment with him. He scanned the crowd, hoping against hope that she might have come. but her absence felt like a physical ache in his chest. Kate, meanwhile, had used the time apart to focus on her career and personal growth. She took a job with a fashion company and threw herself into work with determination that impressed her colleagues. But despite her professional success, her friends noticed that the sparkle had gone out of her eyes. She went through the motions of moving on with her life, but it was clear to everyone who knew her that her heart remained with William. The turning point came at a mutual friend's birthday party in late spring. Neither William nor Kate had planned to attend, both knowing that the other might be there. But last-minute circumstances led them both to arrive at the celebration. When William walked into the room and saw Kate laughing with friends near the window, time seemed to stop. She looked beautiful in a simple blue dress, her hair catching the light as she turned her head, and he felt his resolve to stay away from her crumble completely. Kate felt his presence before she saw him, that familiar sensation she had always experienced when William was near. When their eyes met across the crowded room, the conversations around them seemed to fade into background noise. All the reasons they had decided to separate, all the logical arguments about incompatibility and impossible circumstances, suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the overwhelming feeling of rightness that washed over both of them. They spent most of the evening stealing glances at each other but didn't speak until the party was winding down. Finally, William approached her on the terrace where she had stepped outside for some fresh air. "Hi," he said simply, his voice uncertain but hopeful. "Hi," she replied, her heart racing at his proximity after so many weeks apart. They stood in comfortable silence for several minutes, both struggling with what to say. Finally, William spoke the words that had been weighing on his heart for months. "I've made a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "These past few months have shown me that I can't live without you." "I don't want to live without you." Kate felt tears spring to her eyes. "I've missed you every single day," she admitted. "But the problems we faced before haven't gone away. How do we know things will be different this time?" William took her hands in his, looking directly into her eyes. "Because I've learned that love isn't just about wanting to be with someone. It's about being willing to fight for them, to protect them, and to make whatever changes are necessary to build a life together. I should have done more to shield you from the pressure, and I should have put our relationship first instead of just hoping things would work out on their own." Kate could see the sincerity in his expression and hear the determination in his voice. The months apart had clearly given him time to think seriously about their future and what he was willing to do to make their relationship work. "What are you saying?" she asked, needing to hear him spell out exactly what he was proposing. "I'm saying that I want us to try again, but this time I want to do it right. I want to work with the palace to establish better boundaries with the media. I want to make sure you have the support and protection you need, and I want to be more present in your life, even when my duties try to pull me away." Kate felt hope blooming in her chest for the first time in months. And what if it's still too difficult? What if the pressures are still too much? "Then we'll face them together," William said firmly. "No more taking breaks or stepping away when things get tough. We'll find solutions together, and we'll make it work because what we have is worth fighting for." That night marked the beginning of their reconciliation, but both of them approached it with greater maturity and understanding than they had possessed before their separation. They had learned valuable lessons about communication, support, and the importance of actively protecting their relationship rather than simply hoping it would survive external pressures. William was true to his word about making changes. He worked with palace officials to establish clearer guidelines for media coverage of Kate, and he made it a priority to spend quality time with her, even when his schedule was demanding. He also began including her more in his official life, helping her understand the protocols and expectations that came with being close to the royal family. Kate, for her part, had gained confidence and strength during their time apart. She was no longer the uncertain young woman who had been overwhelmed by media attention. Instead, she had developed strategies for dealing with pressure and had learned to trust in her own worth and capabilities. Their renewed relationship was built on a stronger foundation than before. They communicated more openly about their fears and concerns, and they made joint decisions about how to handle challenges rather than trying to navigate them separately. Most importantly, they had both gained a deeper appreciation for what they meant to each other and what they were willing to sacrifice to be together. The media noticed the change in their dynamic. When they began appearing together at public events again, Kate carried herself with new poise and confidence, while William seemed more relaxed and genuinely happy than he had in months. Their body language showed a couple who had not only reunited, but had grown stronger through their challenges. As summer turned to autumn, it became clear to everyone around them that William and Kate had not only reconciled, but had reached a new level of commitment to each other. They spoke more frequently about their future together, and William began making subtle references to long-term plans that included Kate as a permanent part of his life. By 2010, William and Kate's relationship had reached a level of stability and maturity that convinced everyone around them that marriage was inevitable. They had weathered the storms of their early years together, learned to navigate the complexities of royal life, and built a partnership based on deep love, mutual respect, and shared values. However, the question of when William would propose had become a source of intense speculation and, for Kate, growing anxiety. The media scrutiny around their potential engagement reached fever pitch during the summer of 2010. Every public appearance was analyzed for signs that William might be planning to propose, and Kate found herself fielding constant questions from friends and family about their wedding plans. The pressure was enormous, and she began to worry that William might be having second thoughts about their future together. William, meanwhile, was carefully planning what he hoped would be the most romantic and meaningful proposal possible. He had already spoken with Kate's father, Michael Middleton, asking for permission to marry his daughter in a conversation that had brought tears to the older man's eyes. He had also worked with palace officials to begin preliminary planning for a royal wedding, knowing that such an event would require months of preparation. The most important element of his proposal plan involved his late mother's engagement ring. Princess Diana's sapphire and diamond ring had been kept in a safe at Kensington Palace since her death, and William had always known that he wanted to give it to the woman he married. The ring represented not only his love for Kate, but also his desire to honor his mother's memory by sharing her jewelry with his future wife. William had been carrying the ring with him for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to propose. He wanted the proposal to be private and intimate, away from the constant scrutiny that surrounded their public lives. The opportunity finally came when they planned a romantic getaway to Kenya in October 2010, a trip that would give them the privacy and beautiful setting that William envisioned for this crucial moment. They stayed at a remote lodge in the Laikipia region, surrounded by stunning landscapes and wildlife that provided the perfect backdrop for what William hoped would be one of the most important conversations of their lives. Kate had no idea what William was planning, though she sensed that something was different about this particular trip. He seemed more nervous than usual and kept checking his jacket pocket in a way that made her curious about what he might be carrying. On their third day in Kenya, William suggested they take a helicopter ride to see the landscape from above. Kate was excited about the adventure, having always loved flying and photography. As they soared over the rolling hills and acacia trees, William pointed out various landmarks and wildlife, but his mind was focused entirely on the conversation he was planning to have once they landed. They touched down near a secluded lake surrounded by mountains, with no other people visible for miles in any direction. William had arranged for the pilot to leave them alone for several hours, giving them complete privacy for what he hoped would be a moment they would treasure forever. As they walked along the shore of the lake, William felt his heart racing with anticipation and nervousness. He had rehearsed what he wanted to say countless times, but now that the moment was approaching, he worried that he might forget his words or that Kate might not be ready for such a significant step in their relationship. Kate was photographing the landscape when William gently took her hand and led her to a spot where they could sit together overlooking the water. The setting was breathtakingly beautiful, with the African sun casting golden light across the lake and mountains rising majestically in the distance. "Kate," William began, his voice slightly shaky with emotion, "do you remember when we first met at St. Andrews and you helped me escape from those photographers?" Kate smiled at the memory. "Of course I remember. You looked so overwhelmed, and I just wanted to help." "That moment changed my life," William continued. "Not just because you helped me that day, but because it showed me who you really are. You saw someone who needed help, and you stepped forward without thinking about the consequences or what you might gain from it. That's when I knew you were special." Kate could sense that this conversation was leading somewhere significant, and her heart began to beat faster with anticipation. "These past 8 years have been the happiest of my life," William said, reaching into his jacket pocket. "You've made me a better person, and you've shown me what it means to truly love someone. I can't imagine my future without you in it." Kate gasped as William pulled out the distinctive sapphire ring, recognizing it immediately from photographs of Princess Diana. Tears sprang to her eyes as she realized what was happening. "Catherine Middleton," William said, dropping to one knee beside the lake. "Will you marry me?" For a moment, Kate was too overwhelmed to speak. The ring sparkled in the African sunlight, and she could see the love and hope in William's eyes as he waited for her answer. All of the challenges they had faced, all of the doubts and fears that had plagued their relationship, seemed to fade away in the face of this perfect moment. "Yes?" she whispered, and then louder, "Yes, of course I'll marry you." William slipped the ring onto her finger, and they both marveled at how perfectly it fit, as if it had been waiting all these years for Kate to wear it. They held each other tightly, both crying tears of joy and relief that this moment had finally arrived. "I love you so much," Kate whispered against his ear. "I can't believe this is really happening." "I've been carrying this ring around for 3 weeks, William admitted, laughing through his own tears. "I was so nervous I was going to drop it or lose it before I could give it to you." They spent the rest of the afternoon by the lake, talking about their future, and marveling at the ring that now symbolized their commitment to each other. Kate kept looking at her hand in amazement, still hardly believing that she was engaged to the man she had loved for so many years. "Your mother would have loved this place," Kate said softly, admiring how the sapphire caught the light. "I wish she could have been here to see this moment." William's eyes filled with tears at the mention of his mother. "I think she would have loved you," he said, "and I hope that wearing her ring will help you feel connected to her, even though you never got to meet." Kate touched the ring gently, feeling the weight of its history and significance. "I promise I'll take good care of it," she said, "and I'll try to honor her memory and how I live my life as part of your family." As the sun began to set over the African landscape, they knew that their lives were about to change dramatically. Once news of their engagement became public, they would face unprecedented media attention and scrutiny. But sitting together by that peaceful lake, with the ring sparkling on Kate's finger and their love stronger than ever, they felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. William had chosen the perfect moment and the perfect place for his proposal. The beauty and isolation of Kenya had provided them with a memory that would remain private and sacred, untouched by the public nature of everything that would follow. In years to come, they would both look back on this day as the moment when their real journey together truly began. That evening, they called their families to share the news. Kate's parents were overjoyed, having watched their daughter's relationship with William develop over the years and seen how deeply they loved each other. William's father and stepmother were equally thrilled, welcoming Kate officially into the family that she had already become an integral part of. The couple had decided to keep their engagement private for a few more weeks, wanting to savor this special time together before sharing the news with the world. They spent the remainder of their Kenya trip in blissful happiness, making plans for their future, and simply enjoying being engaged without any external pressure or expectations. When they returned to London, Kate moved through her daily routine with a new sense of purpose and excitement. The ring remained hidden on a chain around her neck when she was in public, but she would touch it frequently, reminding herself that this wonderful new chapter of her life was really beginning. William, meanwhile, began working closely with palace officials to plan for the announcement of their engagement and the subsequent wedding preparations. There were protocols to follow, traditions to honor, and countless details to coordinate, but he approached these tasks with enthusiasm, knowing that they were all leading toward his marriage to the woman he loved. The secret couldn't last forever, and both William and Kate knew that once their engagement was announced, their lives would never be quite the same again. But they faced this transition with confidence, knowing that they had built a relationship strong enough to withstand any challenge, and that their love would see them through whatever the future might bring. The announcement of William and Kate's engagement on November 16, 2010, sent shockwaves of joy around the world. The news broke simultaneously across all major media outlets, accompanied by the now famous photograph of the couple in the state apartments at St. James's Palace. Kate looked radiant in a deep blue dress that perfectly complemented her engagement ring, while William beamed with happiness beside her. The public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. After years of watching their relationship develop, people felt invested in their love story and genuinely excited about the prospect of a royal wedding. The engagement ring, with its connection to Princess Diana, added an extra layer of emotional significance that resonated with millions of people who remembered William's mother with fondness. However, the announcement also marked the beginning of the most intense period of media scrutiny that Kate had ever experienced. Every aspect of her life became front-page news, from her fashion choices to her family background. The pressure was enormous, but Kate handled it with grace and composure that impressed even the most seasoned royal watchers. The months leading up to their wedding were a whirlwind of planning, preparation, and public appearances. Kate had to learn royal protocol, work with designers on her wedding dress, and navigate the complex world of state dinners and official ceremonies. She also had to say goodbye to many aspects of her previous life, including her job and much of her privacy. One of the most emotional aspects of this transition was Kate's gradual separation from her old life and routines. She had to give up simple pleasures like shopping alone or meeting friends for impromptu dinners. Every decision now had to be made with consideration for security, protocol, and public perception. The night before their wedding,
Kate stayed at the Goring Hotel with her family,
following tradition that dictated she and William should spend their final night as single people, apart from each other. As she prepared for bed, Kate felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness about the enormous day ahead. Her mother, Carol, came to her room to check on her and found Kate standing by the window, looking out at the crowds of well-wishers who had gathered in the streets despite the late hour. "Are you having second thoughts?" Carol asked gently, sitting on the bed beside her daughter. Kate turned from the window, her face glowing with happiness. "Not for a single moment," she said firmly. "I just can't believe that tomorrow I'm going to marry the love of my life in front of the entire world." "Your father and I are so proud of you," Carol said, tears welling in her eyes. "You've handled all of this with such strength and dignity. Diana would have been proud too." Kate felt tears spring to her own eyes at the mention of William's mother. Throughout their engagement, she had felt Diana's presence strongly, especially when wearing her ring. She had studied photographs and videos of the late princess, hoping to learn from her grace and compassion. "I hope I can live up to everyone's expectations," Kate said quietly. "There's so much pressure to be perfect, to never make mistakes." "You don't have to be perfect," Carol reminded her. "You just have to be yourself. That's who William fell in love with, and that's who the people will come to love too." Meanwhile, at Clarence's house, William was having his own moment of reflection with his father, Prince Charles. They sat in Charles's study, sharing a drink and talking about the significance of the next day. "I remember my own wedding day," Charles said thoughtfully. "The nerves, the excitement, the weight of knowing that millions of people were watching. But what I remember most clearly is the moment I saw your mother walking down the aisle, and how everything else just faded away." William nodded, understanding exactly what his father meant. "That's how I feel about Kate," he said. "When I'm with her, all the protocol and pressure disappears. She makes everything feel normal and right." "That's the most important thing," Charles said. "Hold on to that feeling tomorrow and remember that this day is about your love for each other, not about anyone else's expectations." The morning of April 29, 2011, dawned bright and clear, as if the weather itself was celebrating the royal wedding. Kate woke early, feeling surprisingly calm despite the magnitude of the day ahead. She had breakfast with her family, enjoying these final quiet moments before the formal preparations began. The process of getting ready was elaborate and carefully orchestrated. Kate's wedding dress, designed by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen, was a masterpiece of lace and silk that had been kept secret until this moment. As Kate looked at herself in the mirror, wearing the dress and her mother's Cartier halo tiara lent by the Queen, she felt transformed into someone new, while still remaining essentially herself. The journey to Westminster Abbey was surreal, with crowds lining every street and millions more watching on television around the world. Kate sat in the car with her father, Michael, both of them overwhelmed by the sight of so many people celebrating their happiness. "Ready?" Michael asked as their car pulled up to the Abbey. Kate took a deep breath, looking at the magnificent Gothic architecture where she was about to pledge her life to William. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life," she replied. As the abbey doors opened and the opening notes of the processional hymn began to play, Kate felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. This was the moment she had been moving toward since that first day at St. Andrews, when she had helped a troubled young prince escape from photographers. Walking down the aisle, Kate kept her eyes focused on William, who stood waiting at the altar with tears of joy streaming down his face. The abbey was filled with heads of state, celebrities, and dignitaries, but all Kate could see was the man she loved, wearing his military dress uniform and looking at her as if she were the most beautiful sight in the world. When she reached the altar and took William's hand, he whispered, "You look absolutely beautiful." Kate smiled, feeling all her nerves melt away as they prepared to speak the vows that would make them husband and wife. The ceremony was everything they had dreamed it would be, combining the grandeur of royal tradition with personal touches that reflected their love story. When the Archbishop of Canterbury pronounced them husband and wife, the joy that radiated from both of them was visible to everyone present and to the billions watching around the world. As they shared their first kiss as a married couple on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, with crowds cheering below them, Kate felt the overwhelming love and support of people who had followed their journey from the beginning. The tearful hug they shared in that moment, surrounded by family and witnessed by the world, represented not just their personal happiness but also hope for a love story that had touched hearts everywhere. Their wedding day marked not just the beginning of their marriage, but also the start of their joint service to the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. As they waved to the crowds from the palace balcony, both William and Kate knew that their greatest adventures were still ahead of them, and they faced the future with the confidence that comes from having found one's perfect partner in life.